Barry Gardiner, MP, thanks for joining us here at the EIC conference. I'll start with a very interesting presentation you made earlier, and I'll start, if I may, on the Amber Rudd announcement this week. I mean, you were very, this is not the way to reset the market, was what you said.
Well, it's a way to reset it if you don't want to meet your carbon targets and your carbon budget. Mm-hmm. But even her own department has had to admit that this reset has taken them in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. If you look at the changes that were made to the DEC website immediately after her speech, mm-hmm. they had to admit that the outcome was 54 million tons extra CO2 in the atmosphere.
Which she says it puts us even further behind meeting our
carbon commitments. We've gone from, I think, 7% down on meeting the fourth carbon budget to 10% down on meeting it. So that is the scale of the shortfall. Now, if you reset the market, you should be doing it because you've taken account of the fact that you're not going in the right direction fast enough, and what you need to do is give it a turbocharge. She's turbocharged it in reverse.
So what should this industry do in response to this announcement?
Well, look, the industry has to be very clear in talking much more, it seems to me, about the jobs and the economic prosperity that it can bring to this country. Right. And it must be very clear in analysing precisely why, when you keep on changing the regulatory framework, you keep on chopping and changing the incentives that are there, that what that does is it undermines that confidence in investment, but that in turn undermines the capacity for jobs and growth in the economy. Right. The only thing that this government understands is GDP economy. It's not the best way of evaluating the wealth in a society, but that's what they understand. And what the industry has to do is it has to say, look, you have set a torch to this many hundreds of thousands of jobs and this amount of economic growth. Yeah. And if it does that, then it maybe get a year.
Okay, you were of course talking here about Sadiq Khan and his plan to be London Mayor. Yes, I mean, one of the big challenges that he has is around air quality, and of course tackling air quality relies heavily on technology, investment in technology. I mean, does this really undermine that drive for new technology?
No, look, the great thing about the mayoralty is it has real power that is independent of government. Right. And if you were talking about being the mayor in a city in the west of England, that would be a different story. London is not. The London mayor has real power, and that's why Sadiq has been very clear about how he wants to use that power. He will be changing the bus fleet, diesel bus fleet, moving to hybrids that actually have the proper cells in them this time, not the failed ones that Boris commissioned, right? So moving away there, making sure that we extend the emission zone, the ultra-low emission zone, out to zone 2, and bringing in the arterial routes into that as well. Now, these are all ways in which we need to tackle air quality, but it's about more than that. It's about saying, let's look at the resources that TfL as an organisation, accountable to the mayor, run by the mayor's office, has. And of course, they have huge resources in terms of land, they have huge resources in terms of buildings, and it's a capacity there that Sadiq is determined will be used to create green energy for the city.
And presumably, if there is a go-ahead for instance, a Heathrow third runway, making sure that the mitigation, the air quality mitigation that's in place is actually stuck to.
Well, look, you have seen the way in which this government is am I allowed to say faffing about?
You can say that, yes.
Okay, faffing about in taking a decision here. They believe that Heathrow is the best for the wider exports and wider economy, but they know that this is a toxic issue in London. Right. And none of the mayoral candidates, their own included, wants the government to come out and say, you know what, we're just going to stick in the third runway and live with the air pollution quality. We cannot do that. It's absolutely clear. We've got the rulings coming down at us from the European Commission, possible infraction proceedings coming down. That air quality problem has to be tackled.
And as you said earlier, 2,739 deaths in the last in the last 12 months.
No, since the beginning of this calendar year.
So, given that background, is it really possible for any mayor to steer the capital towards a 10 million population over the next couple of decades? Is that possible?
Look, the amazing thing about London is that it is just a magnet for people. Not just for people from around the world who come here from China, from India, from Brazil, from wherever, but actually it's a magnet for people within the UK.
Right.
Now, I don't want to see it any less an attractive city for people to come to. I want to see it a more attractive city, but that means tackling those problems like air pollution, like transport infrastructure, like housing that London has in spades at the moment. And that's why when Sadiq is talking about housing, he's joining it up with what he says about air pollution and about a low carbon economy. That's when he talks about education, he's talking about the skills that our industries need in be able to develop that low carbon economy. It's about thinking of this not in silos, but joining it up across the board. And as mayor, he's the power to do that.
It's going to be an interesting debate over the next few months. Thanks, Barry. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot.